So black's last move was to castle. Now, he doesn't really have good pawn protection on either side here, although he doesn't have a lot of threats right now, so he could have castled either way. If he'd castled queenside, he's a little more out in the open, so that's why I think he chose to castle kingside. There's kind of a trade-off there. But I don't necessarily think he needed to castle at that point. He's dominating the center right now, center of the board, and there's a lot of other attacks that he could have worked with there, even just utilizing his A rook. So I don't think he needed to castle there, but he chose to, which is a kind of a conservative move. Now I bring my bishop down here to f2. I had moved my f pawn originally, number one, to fortify my e pawn, but also to give my bishop an escape route in case black tried to push his pawns down and basically trap my bishop there. So that's why I had also moved to f3. Now I'm moving my bishop here because now it creates a pin on his d pawn, because if he moves his pawn out of the way, that's going to skewer his queen. So he either has to move his queen or keep his pawn there. So that's definitely a good move for me. He moves his a pawn. Now he's going to be threatening my b pawn, and black's clearly creating tension on the queen side of the board here, and he's definitely got an advantage with two bishops bearing down a rook and a queen. Now I go ahead and fortify this b pawn, so it's protected twice. It's also threatened 3 times. However, this was a good move for me because black cannot capture my c pawn with his d pawn. If he does, obviously I'll go ahead and take his queen. So he's not going to do that. So that c pawn can sit there right now and act as to protect this b pawn. Well, black goes ahead and still takes it. So I can either take with my a pawn or that c pawn. I might as well take it with the c pawn, because if we go back, if I took it with my a pawn, number one, he's probably going to take my rook, and which I can capture back, but that's going to give black a tempo, and I don't really want to do that. The only reason I would not capture with my c pawn is if I wanted to take his d pawn. However, he's just going to recapture with his e pawn and still have a pawn there on d4. So there's really no reason for me to do it. So I might as well capture with the c pawn there. And he continues to develop his pawn and his pieces. Now he's threatening the b pawn once again. Now at this point I'm starting to get some different ideas here. I'm seeing that black's dominating the center of the board, creating a lot of tension on the queen side, and my pieces are pretty well pinned. I cannot really, even if I try to castle right now and protect my queen, or my king, he's going to bring his bishop down and pin my knight. Then he's going to move his pawn down and trap my knight, so I potentially lose it. There's going to be a lot of bad things happening. Pretty much no matter what I do on the queen side, I'm not going to gain equality. Certainly not ever get an advantage back. So I have to be creative at this point. So what I do is I start to look to the king side of the board. Can I make a viable attack on black's king? I think I can, because like I said earlier, he developed his pawns a little too early. And that can be good because pawns can attack, but they can also be a liability because they have to be defended. And if they're captured or traded, that's going to free up files which are going to potentially leave your king vulnerable. And that's exactly what I knew would happen. So in response to h4, black chooses to continue with his queenside attack. Now this is good for me because at this point I've committed to a kingside attack. I do not care at all about what's going on the queen side here. So any move that he wastes on the queen side, I don't really have any threats to my king at all, or to my queen, or any major pieces. It's just I may lose a couple pawns, whatever. So I don't really care. So he takes that pawn, whatever. Now I take his pawn up here on g5. He goes ahead and captures back. Now you can already see this getting a little perilous for black. Now my rook has, there's an open file here exposed. So I've already gained an advantage right there. Now what I'm doing here is, I know that my queen is going to need to get onto the king side of the board. And the only way it's going to happen is through this diagonal here. So I have to clear out this pawn and this knight at some point to get my queen an avenue of attack. So at this point I don't care about my pawn, I'm just throwing it away. He goes ahead and takes it. But by taking it, you'll notice he also freed up this file, the G file, giving me access potentially in the future to his king. So that's another disadvantage for black. He's basically taking my sacrifices and giving me the advantage that I'm looking for tactically.